Roll Tide, everybody, and welcome to Cover Crimson with Clint Lamb. I'm Mick Gillispie. We're going to talk a lot of Alabama football, as we always do here on Cover Crimson, brought to you by Pearl River Resort, Philadelphia, Mississippi. The Azaleas, the Oaks, two beautiful courses at Dancing Rabbit, and it's the Augusta you can play without a membership. And you can also go there and stay in the clubhouse, get a cart, roll over to Silver Star, hit Philip M. Steakhouse, the sports book, all that stuff right there at Pearl River. All right, let's talk Alabama football. Day 2 of camp, Clint's observations, Ryan Grubb speaks, all that coming up on the show. Thank you guys for being here, and this is a great time of year because we're talking football. All right, there he is, Clint Lamb. I'm Mick Gillispie. Again, our pleasure to have you guys with us on the show. Bama holds its second fall camp practice today, preparing eventually for Florida State, but I'm sure right now just trying to get the fundamentals down. And you were there yesterday. What happened today?
Another good day, informative. I do have some practice observations up over at A to Z sports.com that you can check out if you want it in written form. But one of the first things that I wanted to talk about was yesterday, starting offensive line was kind of as you would expect. It was Caden Proctor, it was Parker Brailsford at center, Jaden Roberts at right guard, and Will Conformby at right tackle. But Gino Vandemark was the one running with the first team at left guard. Today, that was Cam Dewberry, and which isn't surprising. They're both in a battle to replace Tyler Booker. But it was like the second team and third team offensive lines that I thought were pretty noteworthy as well. So the second team consisted of Jackson Lloyd, of Olas Alinen at left guard, obviously Gino Vandemark at center. So he was not the number 2 left guard, and I'm sure he's getting work at both spots. In fact, he's probably getting work at all 3 interior spots, because if he's not the starter, he's probably going to be the first guy off the bench for any of the 3 interior spots. But then at right guard, it was Will Sanders, and at right tackle, it was Michael Carroll. I got to be honest with you, Mick, that's a pretty intriguing second-team offensive line. And I don't know why, but just that combination of players being in the lineup, it was like, man, this depth is pretty good. Now, Olas Alinen, he played left tackle back in the spring because Caden Proctor was out. I do think those reps will help him if he has to go to left tackle. Like if Caden Proctor were to get injured, maybe even if something happened to Will Conformby, I don't really know, but especially on the left side, right now, I think they want to give him the opportunity to get in that left guard competition along with Cam Dewberry and Gino Vandemark. That would make sense. But at the same time, getting him those reps back in the spring at tackle should help the depth if they had to move him back there. I'll be curious to see how that continues to trend with him, though. The third team included Casey Poe at left tackle, Micah DeBose at left guard, Joe Ionata at center, Mal Waldrop at right guard, and Arkell Nugum at right tackle. So, once again, pretty solid group. You start getting into, Arkell Nugum. He's raw, but he's got a lot of potential. Mal Waldrop showed some things in the spring, got some, versatility. A lot of people thought he would end up at center. He played tackle in high school. He played tackle some in the spring, playing guard. So, he'll probably end up being a guy who could technically probably play all 5 interior positions. But, yeah, if that was the first thing I wanted to mention, that they're going through a lot of these battles right now. Another example is linebacker 4. They've been splitting each position into different groups. Like the linebackers were in 2 groups of 4. And it was more of the veteran guys, obviously Justin Jefferson, Deontay Lawson, Nakai Hill-Green. And then yesterday it was Caden Jones as that 4th guy in that group. And then you had QB Reese and the 3 true freshmen in another group. Well, today it was QB Reese with the veterans and Caden Jones with the freshmen. So that, to me, it's like, okay, they're getting guys, figuring out who that linebacker 4 is going to be. You're getting guys action with multiple groups. And so I thought that was pretty interesting. Also, a big talking point. I want to go ahead and I'm just kind of rapid firing right now. I apologize, but just a lot going on up here. Cam Calhoun was seeing some reps at Husky today. And the reason that is worth noting, I thought he would probably be a little bit too light based off of Red Morgan struggling at Husky last year, being a similar size and similar build. Granted, Cam Calhoun, he's tenacious, he's scrappy, he's physical, and he's more physically developed than a true freshman in Red Morgan was last year. So that is a difference. But I just thought, I was like, I don't know if they'll allow him to play some Husky or if they'll keep him on the perimeter. Today he was working with the Huskies. If he can provide depth in a similar fashion to what Deshaun Jones did last year, where he was a perimeter corner, started playing Husky throughout the season, this is another guy who can really help Alabama's secondary, maybe figure out a way to get him on the field some, but also him playing Husky clears the path for Dijon Lee to kind of get a lot more cornerback 3 reps behind your 2 starters in Damani Jackson and Xavier Brown. So a lot of different things. That's just touching on it, but those were some of the first things that stood out.
We're live right now. I know this isn't really what you guys want to hear, but Tank went to Oregon. Tank Jones just committed to Oregon. So, like we talked about on the channel, I think I was probably the only one that was saying that last month and the months before that, Clint. But I really wish that Alabama would have got him. But Taj Lapoy and the rest of that staff did a good job recruiting the 5-star out of St. Paul. So anyway, Roll Tide, guys, as we talked to you here, I just saw it popped up. I saw you guys were putting it. I don't want to say that I'm shocked. I was shocked that the people that covered recruiting didn't have Oregon higher up on the list, because it was Oregon and Alabama from day one on this one.
Well, and that's kind of, you had definitely heard that. I talked to you. I guess it was probably, 5-6 weeks ago. And you were like, from what you were hearing, it was an Oregon Alabama battle. And you said a lot of what he's been reiterating in recent weeks or days. And that is the relationships. Everybody wants to put it with the NIL.
Yeah.
I do know that has played a part, and I do think that they upped his NIL, but also I just think Oregon staff, this is why Dan Lanning wanted to stay at Oregon, because the funding is there and they'll let him kind of do what he wants with that funding. But also, he's got the experience in the SEC. He's good at building relationships. Tosh Lapoy spent time at Alabama. These guys kind of know the process a little bit. But this is the second time that Oregon's come into the state of Alabama and got the number 1 player. And so that's something I know Bama fans are disappointed. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that this isn't a miss. It is a miss. It's a big miss. But I also think Alabama's okay. Like, I don't think there's any reason to panic. In this era of college football, you've got to be able to get the dudes, but also you got to be able to develop the dudes. And I think one of the elements of Alabama's staff, that's not saying Dan Lanning and Oregon staff can't develop, but I am saying that I think that's a strength of Alabama's. So, it's a disappointing development. Still a long ways till signing day. We don't know what'll happen, but that it is what it is. I guess probably should be focusing more on Alabama's practice now.
Yeah. We'll switch gears. But I saw that and I'm shaking my head, man. I hate that look, Oregon's a long way away. I've never met anybody that wants to live there. Everybody that I meet is moving out of there. So, that's just the way it is. But okay, good for him. And I wish him the best. And like you said, it's not signing day. He just committed, so we'll see what happens. But NIL plays a big factor in all this stuff now, relationships. Tank's a great player. And if he goes there, we wish him the best, obviously. And, hopefully Alabama can get back in this and try to reel him back in. Full observations from day 2. You were giving us a pretty good breakdown of everything at camp. But before you do that, before you get back into it, let me remind everybody, too, that we're proud to be presented by Ocean City. That's a great place to go right there on the coast of Maryland. That is Residence Inn by Marriott. Our friend Keith runs the place, and he's from Decatur, and he wants you guys to come say hey to him and roll tide. What a beautiful sunset there. You got great seafood, Secrets Bar, the boardwalk, all of that at Residence Inn by Marriott in Ocean City. The Next Round Gang did their show there. They loved it, and we're trying to get out there too. I would love to go out there and spend a little bit of time. All right, give us the full observations, day 2.
So one of the things now today, I wanted to focus more on the offense, and we talked about the offensive line already, but they're also a good ways away. I did see Lazier Brooks, and I want to talk about him for a second because I just think that he's such a special talent. Like when you watch this guy, like the suddenness, the ability to like alter his route speed and get in and out of his breaks, silky smooth, and you're watching him go against air. So it's not like, I mean, you don't have anybody across from him really challenging him unless it's just a coach or an assistant. But just watching him relative to the other guys, he's clearly got a second gear. I mean, this guy can scoot and he's silky smooth. The comparisons, and I'm not the first to say it. Everybody at this point is saying it. But the more I watch him out there, and the more that he's getting physically developed, like he looks a little bit different now than he did back in the spring, which is expected. The more he's starting to look like Jalen Waddle, and just the way that he moves. And I think the things that you can do with him. And, Jalen Waddle was a good perimeter receiver because he could actually go up and do some contested catch stuff despite the fact that he was so small. Like he wasn't limited to just the slot. Now, NFL role is a little bit different, but we're talking college. I mean, John Mechie was an outside receiver for Alabama, played in the slot some. Now he's kind of a slot-only option in the NFL. So it might change for Lazier Brooks down the line, but he's a true inside-out option, in my opinion. I was very impressed with him. But while I did watch the offense a little bit because they were so far away, I found myself focusing on the defense once again. And I was watching the defensive line, the interior defensive line in particular, do the one-man sled drills. And you saw, guys like Steve Mbumwa, once again, the rawness came to kind of the surface, and he struggled on a couple of reps, but they were coaching him up. And I think I even heard Kelby Collins say, you're strong as hell, Boom, like hit it. Like, and by the third time that he did it right. And you can just tell this guy's got just a lot of natural power and God-given ability. He is going to be a fun one to watch because it's like right now there's so much that he's still working on from a conditioning standpoint, from a technical standpoint, that he's going to take a little bit of time. But whenever it clicks, I think it's just going to be like a light's going to come on, and he is going to turn into a dude quick. I'm really excited to watch his development. But, as I was watching this drill, like even James Smith struggled. He had to do it again, and granted, he made up for it pretty quick and did it right. But it's tough. And what it does is you've got to show hip explosion. You've got to show, power. You got to get lift on the sled, and it's a heavy sled. But you can't start driving your feet until you've got it in the right position in the air. And if you're going too quick and you're not being patient with it, as far as how you're going through the process, you end up just kind of driving it straight, and they'll get on to you. Two guys that I saw doing that drill that looked phenomenal was Jeremiah Beeman and Edric Hill. And Beeman, the power that he brought, it was almost like the thing was, I don't even know. It looked like it was 5 pounds for him. Just made it look super easy. Edric Hill, you can see the hip explosiveness. He's got some pop to his game, and he was putting some good licks on the dummy as well. But just, you're watching James Smith, who's projected to be the starter, and obviously we're all still predicting that. But just with that drill in particular, the two best looking guys, in my opinion, was Edric Hill and Jeremiah Beeman. So that was something that I thought was interesting. London Simmons, the true freshman, 3-star recruit, thought he looked pretty good physically. Looks like a guy. He's more physically developed than I was thinking he was going to. He looks like he's going to be a nose. We'll have to wait and see. But one of the other things that I wanted to point out that I thought was interesting was Kelby Collins was working with the interior defensive lineman on that sled, while all the bandits and stuff, they were off kind of doing their own thing. I don't even know what they were doing. I wasn't paying attention, but Kelby Collins wasn't with them. Now, a lot of the stuff that I think I saw yesterday had the bandits and the interior guys all working together. So maybe I didn't notice where Kelby Collins, maybe he was with the interior defensive lineman yesterday as well. But I more so probably think it's like, he spent some time at bandit. Now he's spending some time on the interior because he's going to be doing both and providing depth at both. It's the same thing with Cam Calhoun. You're going to see him working on the perimeter, probably going to see him working at Husky. So, those are some of the things that I noticed that I thought was really interesting and definitely worth mentioning.
Guys, we appreciate you being here, and we got you hooked up for football season, and that is at rowback.com. Use our promo code Crimson20 to get yourselves some good-looking gear at Rowback. They got incredible polos that are Alabama style, pullovers. They got all kind of other golf gear as well. So when you head over to Dancing Rabbit, you can have some real good-looking golf gear out there as well. But for the classroom, work, church, wherever you go, Rowback.com's got you covered. And it's hot down here, and all of those shirts are super breathable. One of the guys who I think is a difference maker for Alabama on the coaching staff, and I think all you guys agree, is Ryan Grubb, and we're all excited about having him. And I felt like last year the staff was missing something when he stayed in Washington and didn't come to Tuscaloosa. Well, he's here now, and he spoke. And it feels like if Kalen DeBoer is the yin, he's the yang, right? So he's kind of the darker side of the two-man equation. He spoke today. DeBoer yesterday, it's always sunshine and roses. And DeBoer comes in with a big smiley face. Grubb seems to be like a little closer to Coach Saban, where he's never happy, kind of. Well, kind of, but not really.
Yeah, he definitely has a little bit more Saban in him. And, I haven't got to see all of the press conference yet. We put you guys as the priority, right? Try to get back as quick as possible. Thought I was going to get stuck in traffic on 280. It's been crazy on 280 pretty much all day, the same way this morning. But was able to get back, but just wasn't able to watch the press conference fully yet. But, it's something that he mentioned was, the different skill sets that the running backs bring to the table. From all indications, and we've wondered, we've expected Jam Miller to be the starting running back, but then, I've made comments like I wouldn't be floored if like a guy like Daniel Hill emerged as he ended up being the main back or something. Well, based off of what Ryan Grubb was saying, I think Jam Miller has a pretty strong grip on that top spot, which is once again to be expected overall. He mentioned that a lot of guys are playing catch up to Jam because he's been there, he's done that, he's been on the field getting snaps, and the amount of football that he's played and the ways in which he's contributed, whether it be as a runner, whether it be as a pass catcher out of the backfield, whether it be in pass protection, whether it be getting out in space and blocking on the perimeter. They would do some stuff as far as getting Jalen Milroe outside, letting Jam Miller get out there and kind of be his lead blocker. He does that extremely well. One of the more underrated elements of his game, in my opinion, but just he is a balanced guy. And I think as far as the vision and seeing it tackle to tackle, I still have my reservations. I would like to see it a little bit more consistently, but very explosive. Kind of a high-hipped build where, as far as like the hip fluidity and everything, I don't think he's like elite in that category. But as far as like the straight line speed and kind of having the home run hitting ability, he's got a lot of it. So, you just don't see a ton of suddenness to him. He's not going to be a Josh Jacobs that's going to make guys miss in the open field like Jacobs used to. But Jam Miller definitely, obviously, is trending towards being Alabama's starting running back. And they feel pretty good about the guys they got behind him. I thought Rich Young looked good today. I noticed him in particular going through some of those footwork drills. That's one of the things about him. He's kind of more seemed like he's not going to have a whole lot of suddenness to him either. He's more of a one-cut power, has more long speed than a lot of people realize, good, powerful build. But as far as the suddenness and breaking down and making guys miss, you just don't, I haven't really seen that a ton on tape for him, but I thought he looked better doing those drills than I've seen him in the past. So that was something that was worth noting. A.K. Deer, from a conditioning standpoint, he seems to be in a much better place, seems to have his, no pun intended, his feet under him a little bit better. And so I thought he looked good going through those drills as well. But once again, there's only so much you can take away from this stuff. We're getting very limited vision on these guys, but just everybody right now seems to be in a good place. And what I'm going to be curious to keep an eye on is, how does that running back room continue to evolve as far as like pecking order? Will Daniel Hill jump in front of Rich Young? How far does Straylon Washington climb? Like, these are all things that we need to be keeping an eye on. But overall, great second day of fall camp.
You guys can follow us right here on our YouTube channel, Cover Crimson on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Make sure you're part of it. We appreciate all of you guys here. And also Cover Crimson Podcast Network. So this show, Elephant in the Room, all the shows that we do will be available as a podcast as well. So make sure that you go there and you subscribe, because it gets us a lot of the credit when, just like here, when you give us a thumbs up. It helps us build the algorithm, helps us pay for the show. And it's free content. So thank you so much for hanging with us and being a part of this. So off Friday, back at it on Saturday again. Clint, what are you thinking? Day 3 of fall camp.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to be there on Saturday. I have some other stuff going on, and it's unfortunate because I always feel a lot better when I get my own eyes on it. But I will be back on Sunday. So, there will be more information coming. But I think through 2 days, I think we've learned about what you would expect to learn. You're not going to know a whole lot, but this team, they look physically different. I think based off of, you got different schemes. It's a different style. It's a different approach. I think a year plus into this process, the guys kind of look how they're supposed to look. Like, I think the Wolves, they look leaner. They look more athletic. We were watching them kind of go through some of those drills and having a drop in coverage because of some of the lost weight and stuff. Like, guys looked a lot smoother doing that, and they're having to play off the ball, 25, 30% of their snaps. So need to probably be a little bit more fluid, but the builds reflect that, right? A guy like Deontay Lawson, like I said yesterday, was watching him more today. He looks fine physically. Like, I'm not saying from the knee standpoint, I'm talking about the weight. I'm not as concerned about it as I once was. And, you're kind of seeing him in a position where he's going to probably play that Mike role this year after playing more of the stinger weak side last year, because the Mike is more of your space linebacker. And so him dropping some weight, and especially relative to like a Nakai Hill Green, he's a lot better of an athlete than Hill Green is. So, him dropping some weight and everything, that's it makes sense. So I just think from a body type standpoint, they're a lot closer to where they want to be. The talent is evident. As I said to start the show, the offensive line, just the second group, something about the combination really stood out to me and just said, man, there's more here than just the first team. And we've kind of known that, but just seeing those guys, it's like, man, you got 2 borderline 5-star freshmen who are already working with the second team. Both look good physically. Both were moving well. You got some athleticism. Olasolinen has some tackle flexibility, but he's back inside, which I think he's better as an inside player. You got a guy like Gino Vandermark, who has a lot of positional flexibility. Will Sanders, his hip snap, like when he's got to pull, just something. It's like a, I don't even know what you would call it. There's some leverage there. It's like a door swinging open, man. Just super fun to watch anytime that they ask him to pull and get out in space. He looks like a running back almost getting out there. So, him working with the second team isn't surprising at all. Just overall, man, I was impressed with today, and I'm definitely looking forward to getting back out there on Sunday. But I'll also be doing some stuff. We'll have some more coverage. I won't be there in person, but they'll be releasing some practice videos. Everybody else will be sharing videos. I'll go watch through those and try to give everybody some content. Probably won't have a video on Saturday, but we'll be back on Sunday, and we'll have plenty of information then for sure.
I love it. Yeah. Hey, we can get back on here Saturday, and if anything happens Sunday, whatever. It's just exciting. We got football back again. Is there anything else that you can add, like maybe position battles that you think are worth keeping an eye on right now that you didn't mention, or maybe a surprise or two that you're kind of getting the vibe being around there to watch for?
Yeah, I think the defensive line is really interesting, but I'm starting to think it's pretty locked in. Like Kelby Collins, if he is seeing reps at both band and on the interior, which is fully the expectation, then, I don't really have as much of a concern about the depth on the interior. What I will say is watching London Simmons, Stephen Boomois, kind of seeing him, even though he's raw, he's not ready. London Simmons is not ready. But if those guys can kind of come on where it's like, okay, if injuries were to happen, you really don't want to rely on those guys a ton, but they can at least give you something. They can give your starters a little bit of a breather. They can rotate in a little bit. Like we needed to see that from Edric Hill this past year, where, guys started getting hurt or started leaving. Damon Payne wasn't available, for the bowl game. Jaheim Otis left pretty early. Edric Hill started seeing some more snaps, and it's like, okay, this guy can contribute something. Like I'm hoping we can get something like that from some of those younger guys. LB4 to me is super intriguing because not for 2025, but for 2026. Like who ends up settling into that spot? Is it one guy, or do we see this constant? Sometimes it's QB Reese, sometimes it's Caden Jones, because all three of the guys they have there at the top are leaving after this year. So I want to see kind of who has the leg up entering the season, and then throughout the season, kind of who's the first guy off the bench when it comes to the linebackers that's not one of those main three. And I want to monitor that, and we'll be sure to provide tons of coverage on that front here as, we're noticing some of those things, but that could tell us a little bit as far as what to expect for that 2026 battle. But that's what I'm keeping an eye on. Dijon Lee, physically impressive. Talked about it yesterday. Definitely saw him working more as the cornerback 3 today. Cam Calhoun's still going to be a guy. In some ways, I probably would compare it to the Mbakwe Deshaun Jones situation last year, where Mbakwe was the young 5-star talent. He was definitely getting some rotational snaps, but you also had Deshaun Jones, who was early getting some rotational snaps in the corner, kind of working as that cornerback 3 or 4 as well. Then over the course of the season, he started providing depth at Husky, and now that's his full-time position. Not saying it's going to be Cam Calhoun at all, but I'm saying I could see Cam Calhoun providing that flexibility from a depth at both, and then Dijon Lee kind of being the Jalen Mbakwe who's getting plenty of snaps in a rotational type of role, and they're kind of preparing him for the future. Don't think Dijon Lee's going to be switching to wide receiver in his second year, though. So that's definitely a difference. But, yeah, that's probably some of the top things that I'm looking out for. And just by the way, Keon Sabb, he's healthy, looks good. Didn't realize, just just how banged up he was last year with the foot injury. I was watching him on tape, and I'm like, he just didn't look as fast. Like, he still made an impact, but he just didn't look as athletic as he did at Michigan. And I was like, did he gain some bad weight? Like, what is it? Because he looks pretty similar. I know he had gained a little bit of weight. Well, when you're playing through a broken foot, that'll do it. That'll slow you down. So I think he's got a lot more juice than a lot of people realize. And I'm not saying he's like a freak athlete or anything. I just think there's more there. Bray Hubbard. Alabama has not had a true, pure first-round safety. Minka Fitzpatrick ended up getting drafted in the first round, number 11 overall in 2018. But he played a lot of star at Alabama. Moved to safety once Eddie Jackson went down. But the last pure full-time safety for Alabama that was drafted in the first round was 2014 Clinton Dix. And I'm telling you, I'm not saying it's going to be in 2026. I'm not saying this is Bray Hubbard's final season, but Bray Hubbard's got first-round traits. He's not just an elite athlete, but he's an above-average athlete, but just the instincts in which he's already playing with. He plays the safety position like he's got a background as a quarterback. He knows where to be. And so that's been a lot of fun to see how he's developed. He was looking good out there today, so technically sound, good range, can do a lot of different things for you, can definitely is aggressive coming downhill, will generate turnovers for you, but his anticipation is on a different level, and that's very surprising for a guy who hadn't really played the position all that much. So I'm sitting here wondering how much better is that going to get, which I think there's still a lot of room for growth. So I think he's got first-round potential in the future, and if he ends up getting drafted in the first round, it'll be the first pure full-time Alabama safety to be drafted in the first round probably in over a decade, which, it's kind of surprising.
Awesome. Well, there you go, Clint. Great work. Always love hearing your breakdowns. And we appreciate all of you guys, too, for hanging out with us here on Cover Crimson. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the content and you plan on coming back and hanging with us. Also, it's a great way of saying roll tide as we move on in camp. And like Clint said, they'll be back at it again on Saturday. Cover Crimson Podcast Network, if you can't watch the YouTube channel live, brought to you by Pearl River Resort, Philadelphia, Mississippi. It's Dancing Rabbit Golf Course, the Augusta you can play. Roll tide, everybody, and we'll talk to you again soon.
River Resort.